Podcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, traders. Can you hear me and see my screen? If you could just type yes in the questions there and confirm. So then I know that you guys can hear me. Okay. Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right. Welcome to the Bookmap Platform Details webinar. This is Bruce at Bookmap. Risk disclaimer: trading futures, equities, and digital currencies involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. And let's see here. Usually on Fridays, we hand out the link to the advanced order flow webinars. Okay, so let me explain here. Okay, so for more information about Bookmap, you can go to bookmap.com, and I'll show you some of the pricing and the for the platform. Now, the platform does come along with education. There's a 4-part educational course. And then we back up that education and content in the live markets, in the live order flow advanced analysis webinar. Okay, in that live webinar, and it starts in about 28 minutes immediately following this webinar. And in that webinar, we'll analyze the market using Bookmap and start to anticipate future price movement based on our analysis. So you get the education, the course, and then you can learn about it and see it live. Okay, so that's the concept, and I'm going to give you access to that educational course, or I'm sorry, not the educational course, but the today's webinar. Okay, so I actually gave it out yesterday as well because I did not get to the point to explain something in some detail that I wanted to yesterday. So I just thought I'd cover it in the next webinar. Okay, so there you go. There's the link, so you can join that one. Did any of you guys see yesterday's? I think some of the same guys are in here. Any comments on that? Anything that you saw that you had questions about? Let me know, and we can go over it here as well. Okay. Anyway, let's as I wait for that, let's move on here and jump into bookmap.com, and let me just show you what's going on here. Scroll down. There's an intro video here at bookmap.com. More information about the platform, and then we come down here. There's Bookmap for equities, and I'll talk more about this in a second. And connectivity. So we're going to stop here. So what Bookmap is, we are a visualization software trading platform. Okay, we're not a data provider. You do get actually free access to the GDAX exchange for digital currencies and cryptocurrencies, so you won't need to pay for that one. But for futures and for equities, we do not provide the data. Okay, your broker or data provider, you'll have to bring them into it and connect Bookmap. Okay, now you can see there's some platforms in here as well, like NinjaTrader, TTX Trader Pro, and Interactive Brokers Traders Workstation. Now we connect to these 3 different platforms via API, their API. However, we are a platform as well. So you can connect Bookmap directly with CQG, Rhythmic, Gain, IQ Feed, Transact, and Dev Experts. Now, this Dev Experts here is for US equities. Okay, this is an excellent feed. And scroll back up to this area here. Very low latency. You get the full depth of market. Okay, this is really quite an advantage to be able to see and zoom out in some of these stocks and see. It's incredible to see where larger players are already lined up in the book pre-market. And then right at 9:30 as well, and they're just staying there. That's where they want to deal, and those are targets for other traders to reach. Anyway, ask me questions about the equities. We can go through that. Now let's scroll down a little bit further. Here's the platform. Okay, so you can subscribe yearly with a 20% discount or monthly. There's a few different versions here. There's basically just digital and global. Now the digital version here is free. You only get access to one digital currency at a time and delayed US equities data. And you cannot record that data, nor do you get the ability to trade from the chart. but it is live. It is live feed, and it is a real full copy of Bookmap. Okay. Now it comes with limited support and only basic education. Now the Digital Plus version, you get the full education and full support. You get the ability to trade from the chart. You can record and replay that data, and you get up to 20 different digital currencies. Okay, the Bookmap Global version. Global just means it includes everything. So this is for, it allows for connectivity to US equities as well as futures markets. Okay, and it includes everything in Digital Plus as well. Okay, you get the advanced education and full support. Now the Global Plus version comes along with add-on indicators. That's the big distinction. So you have the ability to trade right from the chart. Big advantage there because you have the liquidity heat map in front of you, so you can manage your trades much more precisely by front running high liquidity or hiding your stops behind high liquidity. And then these proprietary indicators that we put together for order flow, understanding some of the order flow more precisely, and in particular starting to understand not only phenomena in the market and order flow, but larger players. Large lot tracker, we start to identify larger players in the limit order book. Okay, there's a couple of different imbalance indicators, and then iceberg detector. So we have the ability to see when specific orders traded, but they weren't in the limit order book. Okay, and that would be an iceberg order. Okay, larger players use iceberg orders to disguise their size and position. Okay, correlation tracker as well. And let's move on into the social media here. Okay, so you can follow us here at bookmap_pro. All sorts of stuff here. That video here for a spoof test and accumulation, and then a whole bunch of different images that we have here based on some spoofing and a bunch of different things. But anyway, great stuff there. And then our YouTube page, just want to show you some of the videos here. A bunch of intro videos here in a playlist. You can click on the playlist here to play all of them. Features and components here. Just the user interface and all of the different components in Bookmap to understand how to use them. And then the order flow video snippets. These are great videos. They're very short and concise, and they go over the concepts. Okay, very, very just concise to the point. The concepts of exactly what that phenomena is in the order book. Okay, so spoof test, tape reading, the cumulative volume delta setup, layering and absorption, these kinds of concepts. Now we go over this in detail in the advanced order flow webinars. Okay, well, that's about it. Let's move on here and take a look at Bookmap. All right, and here's the S&P E-mini. Taking a look at that right now. And what do we see? So, well, a lot of sideways action. You can see the open right here at 9:30, and it's just been going back and forth after yesterday's big down day. All right, well, for those of you who are new here, we're going to go through some of the components here of what you're looking at in Bookmap. Okay, because this might look rather foreign to you. Okay, now our DOM data is all over here on the side. You see we have several different data columns, but this is the DOM here, okay, your depth of market. This is the offer and this is the bid here. Okay, here's our price ladder. And then this window here is also the current market window. Okay, this is your best bid and offer. And then you see this heat map here. Okay, the heat map, all it is the data here in the DOM these numeric values are now represented graphically. Okay, and I'm going to go over the DOM and the heat map here in just a little bit, but just to give you a little insight to it, because we take that data and record it back onto the chart. So all you're looking at here in this heat map here is the auction. It's just recorded historically, and that's going to allow you all sorts of insights here. Okay, so and we'll get into it, like up in this area up here, some pretty nice stuff to see, and we'll take a look right into it and see what exactly occurred up here. Anyway, that's one element here on the chart. Okay, so we're going to take that element off for right now, and we're going to simplify this chart. Okay, so now I have all these dots here. Okay, what are they? Well, this is the volume. It's the volume that traded on the historical best bid and offer. And we very precisely record where that volume traded. Okay, and then the last element here on this Bookmap chart. Okay, there's only 3 elements, and that last element here is just historical best bid and offer. That's it. Okay, and why do we display it this way? Because this is a very precise way of showing everything in the chart. Okay, now let me demo that by showing you a candlestick chart. Okay, if I show you a candlestick chart here, 5-minute candlestick chart, we look at this data here, and it's only open, high, low, and close of a 5-minute period. Okay, we have no idea what happened in between those areas. Okay, we have wicks and bodies, just open, high, low, and close. And the problem with the candlestick is that it is aggregated data. So we're breaking open that candlestick and showing you precisely what occurred in some of those areas. Okay, so for example, let's look at this candle down here, because it's actually giving us a pretty bad signal. And this is the problem with candlesticks. The same one over here actually is doing the exact same thing. But let's take a look at this one. Okay, from this period to here, 5 minutes. And this is what really occurred in this candle, what makes up this candle here. Let's zoom in just a little bit more. Okay, because I want to show every single minute here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so each vertical dotted line is a minute. Okay, so here's the first minute of data, second minute, third, fourth, and fifth. Okay, and then here's your composite and aggregate view of that 5-minute period. Well, there's all sorts of microstructural areas in here, and we really want to understand what's going on in the microstructure. Okay, this is what's going to give us a lot of insight to anticipating future price movement. Number one is that, let's zoom out just a little bit, and you can see we're downtrending. Okay, well, down here, we made a lower low, but then look what happened here. Okay, they broke up out of this like a little structural range here. Okay, and what we're gonna see here is we're gonna put the volume on, and we're gonna see how the volume relates to the microstructure. Okay, and we're probably gonna see in this area some big green dots pulling that market up out of this area. Maybe not so many here, but probably up here we will. Okay, because this is a bigger structural move, and that's what led to a trending direction here. All right, so we're looking at a microstructural area. All of this though can be related on much higher time frames. Okay, so we're looking at taking it from micro to macro. Okay, so that's historical best bid and offer going back and forth. Now let's turn on the volume. Okay, and let's bring up the volume dot size. Okay. All right, and let's zoom in here a bit. Okay, well, look at the volume down in this area here, and you can see a lot of red, right? I mean, there's actually some buying in here too. I mean, it's been a sideways day, but the majority of it is red as it's pulling the market down, making lower lows and lower highs. Nice cluster of sell volume down here. We kind of go back and forth here for a bit, and then look at the distinction up here though. Okay, and this is where the area where we were just looking at, we broke out of, and this is what the volume, they pulled it up out of this area. And here it is in this big cluster up here. The buyers are starting to take control, and we're starting to see more volume trade at a higher high now. It broke the swing here. Okay, so we're starting to see a change in the order flow. Okay, and as I go forward, look at this cluster up here. Okay, I mean it's a little back and forth. It is true. There is a sell cluster here, and they're battling it out. Okay, but the victor here are the buyers. Okay, and how do we know that? Well, we made a lower. We broke down below here, but this rejected, and it traded up into the range and above. We actually get price discovery here a few ticks above. Here's the pullback. Okay, the pullback is still within the range here, right? And then we see one more move here to the upside, and the buyers take control up here. Okay, so this is the area we're looking at previously here, and I can just draw a line in here, and then here, because we did the same move. It's the same thing. We broke out up at this area here. Okay, and it took this much buy volume to pull that market up out of that area and lift the offer. Okay, now you can also see here very clearly like how we are now, this instrument is now in a new trading range. Okay, and it is evaluated in that new trading range. Okay, look at the pullbacks to these areas here, and it rejects and comes right back up into the range here. Okay, and then again, buyers step in and they do the same thing here again. So one of the setups we always look at, very, very simple setup, is once time and volume is established up in a range, look for pullbacks to where that initiated in the volume breaking up out of these areas. Okay, these are great areas to enter trades. And look for a shift or a move to the other side, and maybe take some profit up here. There's all sorts of different ways to manage this, okay? Or start to hold, okay? It's really up to you how you want to manage it. But some are more risky and aggressive, and some are more conservative. All right. Well, anyway, so now we've just been looking at just two elements on the chart, and already have really good understanding of what's going on in the order flow, okay, and who's in control in some of these areas by reading the volume. And let's just zoom into this area, and I want to show you precisely what we're displaying here, because it's very, very simple and straightforward data. Okay, let's just put this area here into the chart range, and all we're looking at here on these two elements, okay, the best offer is a red line, best bid is the green, and then these green dots, well, these are aggressive market buy orders. This is what happens when you hit the market buy button. You cross the spread, you take liquidity off of the best offer, and a dot paints. Okay, red dot is a market sell. Okay, now all of these dots here, they're all transactions. The bigger the dot, the bigger the transaction. We can use the data tip tool and hover over here, and you can see this is for volume of 70. Okay, the last line there, the fourth line, says volume of 70. Now I'm going to zoom into this area because I'm going to show you that it wasn't just one trade for 70. Here's what really happened. Okay, and we can even zoom into this dot and this cluster. Okay, now we're getting down into microsecond level, and we're talking millions of seconds. And look at how these are spaced out. Okay, in a cluster of 3, 3, 3, and 3. Okay, and this cluster here, most likely algorithmic activity, and you can see exactly how some of them are behaving. Anyway. All together here, we can see precisely what occurred, and we're recording every single transaction in detail. Okay, now, but we don't trade at those levels, and that's great, but let's zoom back out and see how we will just only graphically aggregate this data into a bigger dot, so you can understand what really this bigger dot is made up of. Okay, now as I zoom back out, you're going to start to notice some of these pie displays here. Okay, well, it's just that so many transactions occurred there that there's both buying and selling, so we give you the overall delta of that buying and selling. So for example, here we know that this is much more selling than buying. Okay, there's it's more like 80% here of buying, maybe even more, 85 or so. I'm sorry, of selling, and then just a little bit of buying here. Okay, so that's what we're showing in the volume, and that's how you can read the tape here by seeing the dot size, the color, and where they're taking place as well. Now that's going to be an advantage over your footprint chart, because that footprint chart, it shows the volume very precisely as well. But there's a few things that it just doesn't show. One is it doesn't show you the microstructure. Okay, it can't, and it can't because it's aggregated, just like the candlestick chart. It's aggregated data. You're not going to see all these little microstructural areas and start to piece together, some of these breakouts and looking for pullbacks to some of these areas where it broke from. Right, and the other one is the speed. You're not going to be able to read the speed in the footprint chart because of due to that aggregation as well. It's just going to be a bigger candle. That's all. Okay, so now let's get back to that heat map that I mentioned earlier. Okay, and let's go back to the current market. Okay, and we really haven't missed anything. It's just been going sideways. Now let's take the candlestick chart off here. We have our two elements we're looking at. We're looking at historical best bid and offer, and we're looking at the volume. Now let's get to the heat map. Now the heat map, okay, is based on the DOM. Okay, so for those of you who are accustomed to a DOM, here it is in Bookmap, the COB column. And what we're looking at here is the depth here on the offer. Okay, these are contracts, traders lined up providing liquidity at these levels. It's the auction. Okay, down here on the bid, well, these are buyers, and they're lining up here at these levels, and they want to buy at these precise levels. Now you can see these numbers are constantly changing. The DOM is great. Now the problem with the DOM is the numbers change. What was that before? What about the area around it? Were they front running it? Were they pulling it and adding it lower? All of that kind of, all those questions cannot be answered looking at a DOM, okay, unless you really can memorize all of those areas and how long they stayed in here, etc. And that's rather challenging to do in a DOM, especially with these fast-moving markets and more volatile markets. So what we did in Bookmap is we take that data and we give it a representation here graphically in this window here. Okay, so here's your best bid and offer, and then here's our heat map. Okay, all this is doing is recording these numbers and then plotting it here in this window. Now, where it really gets interesting is we take that data and then we plot it on the chart historically. So what that allows us to do is now understand and use our DOM on a much higher time frame. Okay, so we can zoom out and we can start to note areas down here. Okay, these guys down here, it looks like they traded. We see high liquidity in here, and we see some transactions that took place here as well. But we're not quite sure. I mean, these things happen very quickly. Okay, but to confirm that and emphatically know what really occurred here, we're going to zoom in. Okay, and we're going to look right at what happened here. And I would say, yes, these guys, this is real liquidity. It traded right into it here, and you can see how it's nibbling away, gnawing away at this high liquidity here. Okay, 488 contracts traded here. Okay, at this in this range here. Okay, the liquidity at this area here was 470. Okay, so the majority of that traded. So you'll get a lot of traders, even expert traders, they'll say, well, the DOM is great, but it's all fake liquidity anyway. Well, it's not true. And here it is. This is real liquidity. It's here's your definition. This is what it looks like. Real liquidity. Okay. So, and again, even here, although they're pulling some of that liquidity as well, they're staying in the book too. Okay. So these guys transacted. Right? So these are real players and they wanted to buy, okay? And they are buyers now, okay? The sellers took them on, they actually traded through them. Okay, but this gives us insight. We understand that these guys were real, and we understand that they're starting to absorb some of that price as it comes into it. Now the sellers won the battle, okay, but it exhausted out down here and it rotated right back up. Okay, what does fake liquidity look like? Well, let's zoom into this area here. Okay, this is indicative of fake liquidity, or liquidity that did not want to trade. As price comes up toward them, look what they do. They pull. Okay, so did they want to trade here? And the answer is no. Okay, maybe a little bit of it traded in here, but not much. And a lot of times what we can start to see is this liquidity here will pull, and you'll see it added up above in other areas. I don't see that right now. But in some of these other examples, you can see it very, very clearly. So you can start to understand even not only is it fake, but where they're pulling to and adding. Okay, it's all there in front of us. It's all recorded. Okay, and it allows us now to understand much bigger context of the auction and where that liquidity is and their intent to trade at those areas. Okay. All right. Well, let's wrap it up here, and we'll continue on in just a few minutes in the next webinar. And I'm going to go over some of these bigger areas up here, because this is a pretty important area, above 54 on up to 58. Okay, and yeah, we'll see you there. So you guys have the link. Let me pop it back in. It's in the chat there. Okay, Nikos. So you can click on that and register. And I'll leave it up here for just a minute, so you guys can find it in the chat and then click on it. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. Hope to see you over there in the next webinar. If not, have a great weekend.